This podcast has been brought to you by Seeker's Guidance, the Global Islamic Seminary. Help us spread the light of prophetic guidance to millions around the world by becoming a monthly supporter. Make a small donation at seekersguidance.org/donate. For as little as $10 a month, you can help people find life-changing guidance.
Welcome to Believing Future, important insights from Al-Habib Umar bin Hafiz into how to raise the next generation of believers. Bismillah, alhamdulillah, salatu wassalam ala sayyidina rasulillah wa alihi wa sahbihi wa ala. Welcome to the third episode of this podcast, Believing Future. And we're going to continue where we left off last time, talking about marriage, on the basis of the fact that we can't talk about raising children until we look at the foundation for that, which is a healthy marriage, which is a household built upon Iman and built upon the teachings of Sayyidina Rasulullah Muhammad and Abdullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And even before that, we can go further back and say raising children goes back to our own state. If we're going to talk about tarbiyah, talking about raising children and the purification of the soul and so on, we have to look at our own souls and our own selves and our own hearts and ask ourselves how pure and how healthy are we in that regard. If we're going to try and impart something to someone, as they say, the one who just hasn't got something can't give it to someone else. So we have to look at our own state, our own knowledge of the outward and the inward, our own state with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the state of our hearts, and make that an ongoing concern that we seek purification. And a lot of the problems that we face will be solved by focusing on this, realizing the sicknesses of the heart that we have, and making a commitment to try and work on those things. And then, if the heart is pure, then the house will be pure. But anyway, to go back to where we left off, we're looking at marriage and the kind of concept of marriage. Today, we want to look at the choice. When we come to get married, what are the criteria for making a choice? And a very important, perhaps the most important thing, is looking at deen, the concept of deen. When we come to choose a spouse, making religion the first criteria, making the deen the most important thing, because our faith is the most important thing that we have at the end of the day. It is what enables us to have the best of lives in this world and the next. It should therefore be the main concern when it comes to choosing a spouse. And when we talk about deen, religion, if that's the correct word, then it means that that both parties have a sound understanding of Islam, and they're committed to practicing it, committing to learning about it, committing to abiding by its etiquettes and its teachings, as is understood by the ulama, the scholars, and just means transmitted from us with an unbroken chain back to the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. It's not just what people understand to be religion or religiosity, or what's the custom in wherever we are. It's what the deen itself teaches. And just the outward semblance, the outward appearance of religiosity is not sufficient in and of itself. A man once came to Sayyidina Umar ibn al-Khattab, and he was acting as a witness on the behalf of his friend, attesting to that person's uprightness, to that person's religiosity, you could say. Sayyidina Umar asked him 3 questions. Are you his neighbor? First question, are you his neighbor? He said, no. And the second one, have you ever traveled with him? Have you ever been, a traveling companion? He said, no. And then the third question, have you ever been in business with him? Have you ever done business with him? And he said, no. So Umar said, in that case, you don't know him. You're not fit you can't claim to know him and bear witness to his uprightness if you've never lived next door to him, you've never traveled with him, and you've never done business with him. So those are situations where people are put to the test. When you live next door to someone, especially in our day and age, often we don't even know our neighbours. We don't kind of interact with them. In the past, in many places, you know your neighbours, and you see their interaction, you see their dealings, and you can judge by that, what kind of person they are and what kind of deen they have as well. Likewise, traveling with someone in the old days, traveling was a lot harder than it is now. But still, if you spend time, regardless if you're spending time in transit or in a train or a plane, you know, you do get to know someone. People do start to open up, and you get to see their character, especially when planes get delayed and other things happen and people get tired. And you see their character comes out. Also, doing business, when money comes into it, things very quickly change. People's character change. People's character changes. People's approach changes. Things become very serious. But in those situations, that's when people's true qualities come out. People are often seen to be quote unquote religious on the basis of some outward practices. They might go to the mosque, they might have outward appearance of deen, a beard or a hijab or something like that, but their character and dealings may in reality be completely contrary to Islamic teachings. And the Prophet said, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, this very important hadith, that Allah does not look at your outward appearances or your bodies, but rather He looks at your hearts and your actions. Okay, you can deceive other people, we can pull the wool over people's eyes by what we outwardly do or what we outwardly look like, but we can't deceive Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. His gaze is upon the heart, his concern is our actions and the sincerity of our actions and the goodness of our actions. And the Prophet said, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, the famous hadith that's often mentioned regarding marriage, a woman is married for 4 things. These are the things that people generally seek in a spouse. A woman is married for 4 things: her wealth, her lineage, her beauty, and her religion. And these are, so wealth, lineage, and beauty, they're legitimate qualities to seek, but of course they are limited. Wealth money can run out, stocks and shares can go down, things can get lost. Lineage remains, of course, but it's limited to this life. And beauty fades over time. Physical beauty fades over time. Whereas religion is what is the last thing mentioned, and it is what remains. And it's mentioned last, implying that people often make it the last and final and least important of considerations. So they look at the wealth, they look at the lineage, the beauty, and then finally they might look at the deen. But the Prophet ﷺ was changing, was alerting us to the fact that this is the most important thing. And he said, choose the one with the religion, choose the woman who has deen above the other things, and she can have all the other things. It's fine. It's not to deny those things. Those are things that are legitimate. It's legitimate to seek those other things: beauty, lineage, wealth. But make deen and make religion the priority. Make it the deciding factor when choosing a spouse. And another hadith we mentioned last time as well: if a person whose religion and character you're satisfied with comes to you with a proposal, accept his proposal. Here the only qualities mentioned are religion and character, deen and khuluq. Deen and khuluq. Khuluq is a person's character, the qualities that they have, the inner qualities that they have, which then manifest in their dealings with people. So religion could be understood to be outward practice, fulfillment of obligations and avoiding prohibitions, whereas character is the inward reality of that person's faith. And we always know that the Prophet ﷺ was the absolute embodiment of good character. He was sent to, as he said, I was only sent to perfect and to complete noble character. But when these 2 things come together in a potential spouse, deen and khuluq, practice of religion along accompanied with inner beauty, was essentially what khuluq is, then the marriage will be built upon firm foundations. And then the Prophet ﷺ went on to mention the consequences of turning down such a proposal, that if you don't accept that proposal, then trials will afflict the earth and corruption will become widespread. This is the sincere advice of the Prophet ﷺ. We have seen the effects in some societies where this has been ignored. The main criteria for marriage is financial or social position. Deen and khuluq are the last things on the list, and we see the effect of that, the negative effects that has in society. People who are eligible but unable to get married, and also marriages, marriages contracted for the wrong perhaps for some of the wrong reasons. In Surah Al-Qasas, full of stories, already the stories of Musa alayhi salam, we have this beautiful description of Musa alayhi salam, who comes to this watering hole after a long journey, alone, having left, fleeing from his life from Fir'aun, and he finds these two women waiting patiently in order to water their sheep, in order to allow their sheep to get water to drink from the pool, and because it's men, and they're waiting for the men to leave so that they don't have to kind of get too close to the men and have to push and shove and get there. They're waiting for the men to leave, and so Sayyidina Musa, out of his in a gallant kind of move, he takes the sheep and he does it for them, and then these two women go back to their father, who's Sayyidina Shu'aib alayhi salam, the prophet, and they tell their father about this man, and she says, one of them says, "Father, hire him. A strong, trustworthy man is the best to hire. Al-Qawi Al-Amin, the strong, trustworthy person is the best person to hire." So this is the qualities that she describes to, having told the story, the qualities that she mentions to her father is this strength and this trustworthiness. And Shu'aib is satisfied with that so he summons Musa, and even in the description, this daughter of Shu'aib walks with istihya. She walks in a state of shyness. And they're only working. Normally they wouldn't have to be there. Trying to, in a sense, compete with the men. They only do that because their father is an old man and there's no other male family members to do that. So they're only doing it out of necessity. And when they do that, they have the utmost haya. They have this beautiful quality of haya, which we learn from that story. But the reason we're mentioning it here is because the qualities of Musa are described to Shu'aib, and Shu'aib, of course, knowing with the insight of prophethood, but Musa is Qawi al-Amin. He's strong and he's trustworthy. And Amin is the name of our Prophet ﷺ, and the quality of our Prophet ﷺ that he was described with. He was described by that quality in Mecca in his youth. He was known as the Al-Amin, the trustworthy one. And it was that quality that attracted the attention of Sayyidah Khadija and led in part to their marriage. So qualities, khuluq, akhlaq, these are the qualities that we seek, we look for in marriage. They're going to last beyond the material considerations and the practical considerations. So conversely, it has been narrated that if a guardian marries a woman who is in his care to a corrupt man, he has cut the ties of kinship with her. Okay, so if someone goes against what we've just talked about and seeking someone who has deen, has khuluq, has these beautiful qualities, but instead marries to someone who's corrupt, who's fasiq, who has no concern for religion and has no concern for the deen, then it's as if he has cut the ties of kinship with her, or he has cut the ties of kinship with her, as if he is, this woman has been in his daughter or whoever has been in his charge and under responsibility. He has betrayed that trust and put her in a difficult situation, not just for herself, but for her, perhaps for the children that come out of the marriage as well. So it's a serious thing to do. Instead of that marriage being a means of connection, it is the opposite. Instead of connecting two families to each other and connecting to God, those connections are being severed. It can have disastrous consequences, not just in this life, but in the next. It's not just hardship and difficult in this life, but it has long-term effects for everyone concerned. The woman who's put in that unpleasant situation, her deen may be challenged, and then, as I said, if there's children come out of it, their deen will be maybe difficult for them. They may have no deen at all if their father is not practicing and doing other things. A man once told Imam Hassan al-Basri, the great tabi'i, the great successor, the one from the generation after the companions, Imam Hassan al-Basri, he told him that several people asked for his daughter's hand in marriage, and he asked Imam Hassan who he should choose. Hassan said, marry her to someone who has taqwa, and make the criteria taqwa, God awareness of God and God consciousness. He said, if he loves her, he will honor her, and if he doesn't, he won't wrong her. Okay, it may not be a marriage made in heaven. They may not hit it off. They may not have the chemistry. May not be there. They may not, really gel and so on. But at the very least, he won't wrong her. If they love each other, great. He'll honor her and he'll love her, and everything will go beautifully. If he doesn't, at least he won't wrong her. He have the God consciousness to stop him from doing wrong to her, from oppressing her, from putting her in a difficult situation. So that was advice of Hassan al-Basri. Choose a person who has taqwa. From all the different suitors who are coming to ask for his daughter's marriage, choose a person who has taqwa. Ask around and find out if that person is someone of taqwa, and if he is, then you won't be making a bad decision. It's a custom for the father to say to the groom at the contract, in the marriage contract, I am marrying you my daughter. I am marrying my daughter to you on the basis of God's command to treat her well as long as you remain married, and if not, to release her with excellence and kindness. A reminder that this is the basis of the marriage, I'm marrying my daughter on the basis of God's command, okay, to treat her well as long as you remain married, okay, and if not, to release her with excellence and kindness, okay. So those are some considerations in terms of making the religion the main priority when choosing a spouse. And in the next episode we'll continue this discussion, looking at some of the criteria for choosing, and then setting up the best of foundations for the marriage and for the raising of the children after that. Sallallahu alaihi Sayyidina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi.
Thank you for listening. This podcast was brought to you by Seeker's Guidance, the Global Islamic Seminary. Visit seekersguidance.org to access reliable Islamic knowledge taught by qualified teachers. We offer a wide range of courses, podcasts, articles, and a world-class answer service. Support us in spreading free, reliable Islamic knowledge to millions around the world by becoming a monthly supporter. Visit seekersguidance.org/donate and make a small monthly commitment today. Our beloved Prophet, peace and blessings be upon him, said, "Whoever guides someone to goodness will have a similar reward." So don't forget to share this podcast and spread prophetic guidance.